Hi friends, and welcome back to Spring Fling. I'm Sabrina, and today I'm going to be talking about how to make a super fun quilt. Let me show you. We made a Polaroid quilt. So the fun part of this is instead of the life of the quilt, it's the life of the quilter. Each one of these is a pocket for a picture. I have here the first time I saw the Northern Lights. This was in Rexburg, Idaho. This is a special memory I have of dressing up in costume in my grandma's clothes. This one here is the first official quilt I ever made. It was a t-shirt quilt encompassing all of my high school and camp t-shirts that I had done throughout my youth times. This was the first day with my quilting machine. This is a picture of me bringing it home from work. There's my first day of high school. And the first time I was able to drive a 1929 Ford Model A, my first day of college, and my first time axe throwing. So that's a little bit about me. Now let's learn how to make this super fun and easy block. So the first thing you want to do is get that background for your picture frame. So I started with a 3.5 by 3.5 inch square to make things really simple, and I'm going to use some clear vinyl. I want my vinyl piece to be 3.5 by 3.25 so that it leaves that 1/4 inch tail for you to slide your picture into. So I've cut my vinyl strip to 3.5 inches by width of fabric, and I am just gonna trim that to 3.25 here. And let me tell you, this vinyl can get a little tricky, but you just wanna cut it to 3.25. So now I have my little vinyl piece. And all I'm gonna do is line up one edge with my fabric here, and then I'm gonna leave this as that 1/4 inch edge. I wanna make sure that my right edge is gonna be flush. So the vinyl and the fabric should be touching, and then my top and bottom edges should also be touching. But you're gonna have a 1/4 inch of background fabric on that left side. And I'm just gonna clip to hold it in place in a couple different spots. I want to leave room to be able to start my piece, so I don't want to get the clip too close to the edge, but I still want it to be secure. And then I'm just going to clip it like that, so I have 2 on each side. And one thing I wanted to address is we tested this in several different ways, and the easiest way to not have to use Teflon tape on the bottom of your foot is to actually piece all 3 of these layers together. So I'm gonna add my side pieces. These are 3.5 by 1 inch. So I'm gonna put them right sides together, and this should be flush with your background fabric. So the only thing that's smaller is gonna be that little piece of vinyl. And again, I'm just gonna make sure we're clipping everything into place. I will say clips are better for this than pins, just for ease of use. Okay, perfect. So now we've got this, and we're gonna sew along both edges using your traditional 1/4 inch seam. So let's get over to our machine. So I left a little bit of an edge here to make my life easier, so I don't have to worry about butting up against the clip right as I'm starting. And I'm gonna go ahead and sew with that 1/4 inch seam allowance, do a couple stitches, back stitch to secure, and then mosey on down. Toss my clips as I go here. And there we go. So I'm gonna trim my tails, and then we're gonna stitch the other side. And same thing, I'm gonna move my clip so it's a little bit farther away from that starting edge there. And I'm gonna hold on to my tails to make sure that they're not gonna get eaten in the machine. Do a couple back stitches, and then move forward, and I can pull out that clip there. So all the way down that edge, and pull it off. And we're ready to iron. And all I'm gonna do here is make sure that I'm barely hitting that edge. So I wanna press the seam so that it lays flat, but I don't wanna get too close to the vinyl so that it doesn't melt. And then I'm just gonna flip it over, and I'm gonna use my finger to hold it down, and the iron is just gonna graze the edge of that plastic. So you're not over the top of the seam, you're just pressing the fabric, not the plastic. And you can see it'll still pop up a little bit. That's okay, not too big of a deal. We're gonna press this other seam here, and I just have the edge of my iron along that seam. So I'm pressing it flat, setting those stitches, and then I'm gonna finger press it open, get my iron right along that edge, and that will help to flatten everything out here. Now that I've got this piece, I am going to attach my bottom. And as you know, the bottom of a Polaroid is always a little bit wider than the top. So this piece is going to measure 4.5 by 1.5 instead of that 1 inch. So you get the extra 1/2 inch that just adds a little bit of dimension to your picture frame. And I am just going to line up my edges along the bottom and keeping my right edge aligned. And then I'm gonna line up my corners here with both pieces of fabric. I'll add a clip in the middle to make sure that it's stable. And then one more clip at the other edge just to hold it tight all the way through. Just like that. Now we're ready to sew. All right, I'm gonna adjust my clip just so that it's comfortable there. Get that 1/4 inch, hold on to my tails, and pull that clip out of the way. We're gonna back stitch just a little bit to secure and plug along. And perfect, we've got that seam there. Go ahead and trim our tails. And now we can press our block again. So same thing as before, we're just gonna hit that edge of our seam. I don't wanna be too close to that vinyl. And just get nice up and close to that seam with the edge of my iron so that it sets nicely. You can use a little bit of steam, but again, you don't want your iron to get too hot and have your plastic warp. Perfect, now we can sew the top edge on. So this one, just like our side pieces, is going to be 1 inch wide, and it's gonna be 4.5 inches long. So that way it covers the whole top plus the sides. And we're just gonna clip that into place here. Again, we're gonna line up our edges. Better to use too many clips than not enough. So I always clip a little extra just to make sure it's gonna be totally secure. Now we're ready to sew again. So hold on to your tails. Put your foot down, sew a couple stitches, and back stitch to secure. Now we're ready to cruise. Perfect. And our block is already coming to life. So again, we're just gonna press along the edge of that seam. All you wanna do is just make sure that your plastic is up here. As long as you can slide your finger right in there, you're good to go. So you finger press it open, and iron that edge there, and you'll have a nice block. So it's nice and secure, and you can see that pocket opens up nicely. And let me just show you how it works. I cut these pictures to 3 by 3 inches, and then I realized I did have to trim them up a little bit. So I shaved off just about 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch, whatever works best. And then you just slide your picture right in that pocket. And it's interchangeable. So if you wanted to change it out for the seasons or for different kids, whatever you want to do, it's up to you. So all I did was make 30 of these little pouch blocks. Then I sewed my 2.5 inch strips on either side so that I made a row in the dimensions that I wanted to. And then I sewed a 2.5 inch strip along the edges so that I could combine my rows together and have similar spacing to the distance apart that they were in each row. So let's head on over to our quilting machine and let's see how it's done. All right, we're back and we're ready to quilt. So let's get started. I'm gonna start on the top here. And one of the important things to remember is because we have this vinyl in here, we wanna make sure that we're not stitching over it, otherwise we'll lose our pocket. So what I'm gonna do is start at the top, and we're just gonna quilt this row like a border and corner. So I think we're gonna start just simply by bringing up our bobbin, and we are going to do some ribbon candies. And I'm gonna make sure that it's in the mode that I want. I like precise mode, and usually I live around 9 SPI because it gives a nice feeling to the stitches. So we're gonna go ahead and round this out.
And I'm just gonna do some basic free motion here. Perfect. So we've got our first border done, and you can see how quick and easy that was. Now, so that we can get a nice frame for each of our pieces here, we're gonna go ahead and stitch in the ditch. So I'm gonna use our ditcher ruler and show you how to do that. So I'm gonna bring up my bobbin right in the corner of the portrait here. And then you can see there's a little white line here, but you wanna just make sure that your lines are on that edge, and that will keep you on the 1/4 inch so that you'll be able to stitch right in the ditch there. So we're just gonna stitch right along here. I'm just gently guiding the machine along the edge of the ruler, and you can see how easy that was to make sure everything's lined up and you get some nice stitching. Again, you wanna make sure that this white line that's right in the center of that cutout is on your seam. And as you go across, you'll be able to stitch right in that ditch there. And then we'll go back up, and same thing, I'm just gonna line up my seam with that edge there. And we'll get right in the ditch. And I'm gonna make sure that I trim my tails. And then one more time, we're just gonna go across here. And you have a nice, perfect little stitch in the ditch. So I'm gonna do that for this whole row right here, and then we'll meet back so that we can focus on doing our in-between stitches as well. All right, so we've got our last frame for this row outlined. Now we're gonna go in and work again with this ribbon candy, but this time we're gonna work on doing it directionally so that we have it vertical instead of horizontal. So I am just going to pop right in this corner here, bring up my bobbin, and we're ready to stitch. Perfect. Now we'll go ahead and hop in over to our next one. And again, we're just gonna do that ribbon candy all the way down so that we can add a little bit of texture to the background of our wall hanging here. And we're gonna do this all the way across until we get to the other side. All right, we're on our last edge piece here. Bring up our bobbin. And again, we're just gonna make some of these fun little ribbon candies. And end at our stop point here. And since we went this direction on our way over, we don't even have to worry about traveling because we're just gonna come all the way back using this strip. So we've made our way back, and now again for this next row we're gonna do the same thing as we did before. We're gonna stitch in the ditch around all of our little Polaroid frames here, so that way we get a nice clean look. One of the concerns you might have with using mixed mediums or having an area you can't quilt over is, how do I eclipse out those areas? Should I use automation? Should I use free motion? Should I use ruler work? The easiest way for me to tell you how to do it is to just do free motion. Do something you're comfortable with that'll make it look simple and easy, but have a nice clean look. So let's go ahead and we'll continue stitching in the ditch, and we'll be right back. Look how quick and easy that was. It's all quilted with basic free motion and a hint of ruler work. You can do it too. Don't forget to share in the comments what you're working on, what you're creating during the Spring Fling events. And don't forget to like and subscribe
to our YouTube channel at Grace Company Quilting. Follow us on social media so you can receive updates on all of our fun projects we're working on.